Okay, it is my pleasure as the Diversity Committee Coordinator, Gina Desai here, to welcome our guest speaker for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I want to thank all of you who are in the audience for attending. I'm going to go ahead and share our speaker, José Patiño, his bio, so I'll go ahead and share that with you at this moment. José Patiño is a DACA recipient, former high school teacher, activist, and organizer. José is also the Vice President of Education and External Affairs at Aliento, a local nonprofit supporting undocumented students, DACA and mixed status students. José led Aliento's Yes on Prop 308 to grant in-state tuition and publicly funded scholarships to undocumented and DACA students at Arizona's public community colleges and universities. José is a board member of Phoenix Union Foundation for Education, PUFE, IME, Becca Steering Committee, and the chair of Arizona's Dreamers Scholarship Fund. Previously, José served on the Arizona Department of Education School Safety Task Force, the City of Mesa 2020 Census Task Force, the National DACA Advisory Board for Teach for America as the chair of the Advocacy Committee, and Students Learns, Students Vote National Coalition. We want to go ahead and thank José for coming to Glendale Community College today, and we also want to welcome him as he is known as an expert in the field of what affects our DACA students. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first, apologies for being late. I'll let you know what happened that is relevant to this presentation. Second of all, if you all could come in closer, that would be great. So there's a couple of tables here in the front that are empty. I'm a former high school teacher, and if we can come a little bit closer, I know that that table can move here, and this table can move here, and if that table can move here, that would be excellent. Thank you. Also, please ask questions at any moment of the presentation. I get excited about this topic, so I might go too fast or may say things that it's an inside kind of vocabulary. Please, hey, like Jose, what do you mean by this? Raise your hand or just speak, that'll be helpful. We wanna make sure that this is helpful to you all as well as to us as well, to me. So this is the agenda. Gina went a little bit over just the topic, but I wanted to do an introduction, a little bit of myself. We'll do a little activity, give you a little bit what aliento is. Aliento translates into breath from Spanish to English, but when you give aliento to somebody, it's like giving words of encouragement. We see ourselves as supporting the immigrant community here in Arizona. We'll talk a little bit about undocumented students, DACA recipients, and as well as Prop 308 implementation, some of the policies, and then also next steps. I think all of you signed up for the information, I think, correct, in the sign-in. I'm gonna send this presentation to you all in case you'll need it. So you don't have to write all the data out, but in case you want to, you could. But I just wanna make sure to share that. So a little bit about myself. I actually grew up in the West Valley, in the Maribel area, 51st Avenue, McDowell. I currently live now in Gilbert, so on the other side of town. I recently got married, Gina mentioned, and my partner grew up in the East Valley, so we compromised, so we moved to Gilbert. I wanted to stay in the West Valley, but things happen. But a couple of things that I wanted to share a little bit about myself is, as Gina mentioned, I studied mechanical engineering in my undergrad at ASU, studied a master's in secondary education at Grant University, and then I have also was invited to the White House during the Obama administration in support of DACA teachers. Originally from Mexico, came to the US when I was 6 years old, grew up undocumented without status in the West Valley. Didn't know what that meant up until I got to high school when you start getting your driver's license, and then you start seeing that a lot of us could not get a driver's license because we didn't have a social security number. So that started impacting me. And then as you turn 16, you want to get a job at the local McDonald's. That was my my dream job, just because I loved the fries back then. And again, you couldn't get that either. And then when I was a high school senior, Prop 300 passed in Arizona, which meant that if you were undocumented, you're not eligible for in-state tuition or scholarships. I was the youngest of four. I wanted to go to college, be the first one in my family to attend and graduate. My two older siblings had attended but had not graduated. And then I got really motivated just because I saw my mom getting happy that I got accepted into universities and thinking that, oh, her child is going to go. And my mom started telling her friends, and I don't know if you know immigrant moms or Latina moms, they kind of tell each other everything. And she was super excited because people were congratulating her. But then when Prop 300 passed, it changed because I was still admitted to the universities. However, I had to pay 3 times as much, and I was not eligible for the scholarship they originally had offered me based on my grades. So therefore, I just got into my head that I was going to figure it out. Got a lot of coaching from my mom, which is like, just go ask questions to anybody that you can. And my dad is like, you just don't give up. So I went to my counselors, teachers. They didn't know. They just kept sending me back and forth, sending me to outside organizations, went to the colleges, to the universities. Ultimately, I was able to find a phone number with a phone number that said that a private scholarship was created and I could apply. And I was able to get that scholarship. However, I knew many of my friends who had similar grades who were not eligible because the funds had run out. So for me, I always felt some sort of pride, but also a lot of guilt that I was one of the ones who was able to get this opportunity just because I was able to get a phone number in time before the funds were depleted. So one of the things that I always wanted to do is how do I give back to the community and help out those individuals like myself, but other individuals who come from not the most privileged backgrounds to be able to give back. And then I also put this picture here of me working in construction. I used to work in stucco. Since I was a little kid, my dad would take me to work in construction. He said, hey, if you don't focus on school, that's gonna be your job. And in Arizona, it gets really hot in the summers. So after middle school, high school, and college, I was like, I wanna make sure that I don't end up here. Because while I love being outside, it just gets really hot. And then sometimes I saw many individuals have heat strokes because it was just really hot and people kept working. But also that motivated me to be able to understand the struggle that my dad had to do every day to making sure that I had the opportunities to be in air conditioning, to be able to sit in a classroom, to be able to study that he didn't have. My parents have a first grade education. They had to drop out of school in elementary in Mexico because they were the oldest in the families. And as the oldest in the family, you need to help out raise the younger children. So it's something that has always instilled in me, the education. And how education should be a right, but for some individuals, it is a privilege. But one of the things that I wanted to do after that is do an activity with you all, some sticky notes. So, Gina, if you can help me pass them out, please get 4 sticky notes per person, if possible. And I want you to answer these 4 questions. So the first one is, do you know an undocumented or DACA student? So any of your peers or friend, family members? We're in the West Valley. This is the area where there's the majority of undocumented community here in the Arizona area. Second is, what are you holding today? How are you feeling, basically? Third is, who has supported you or what has supported you this week? And then fourth is, what are you hoping to gain from today's presentation? And my hope is that we can have at least one volunteer from each table to share. So hopefully we have some brave individuals. So get around to see which of you would be the one who would share from your table. And then I'll go first. Like I am a DACA recipient, but you can choose somebody else if you know or you don't know. Second, what are you holding today? I feel really grateful. And me coming here, I wanted to get here early, so I was speeding and police officers pulled me over. And because rightfully so, I was speeding. Went through the process, it felt really good, to be honest with you, to be, here's my driver's license, or here's my insurance, here's my registration. Which many times before I've been pulled over probably close to 10 times, mostly when I was in high school and college. And it was difficult when you didn't have a driver's license, when you didn't have a form to identify yourself, when it got scary and you were handcuffed or arrested or being processed for hours and hours because they couldn't verify your identity when your car was towed. This time my car wasn't towed. They just gave me a ticket. I remember my car being towed, and it's $1,000 that I don't have anymore. So yeah, that's why I was late. Again, don't speed, even if you're gonna make sure to take your time. And then I'm just grateful that I have a driver's license now to be able to just give out and prove who I am. But we'll take a couple minutes. Again, hopefully we get a volunteer from each table. Those tables that have more people, great. Those tables that have less people, yay, one of you is gonna go. Okay. All right, we're gonna get started. So if you could stand up so everybody can see you.
Hello, my name is Kason. Do I just go through the questions, or?
Yeah, what was discussed in the group?
Oh, so generally, we don't really know anyone undocumented. That was the consensus from the group, and all around, we're doing okay this week.
Who is supporting you this week?
Well, me personally, a lot of the support I've gotten this week has been from close friends. It's been a turbulent week, but they helped me through it. They helped me see as long as I get to the end of the week, that's what's important. And what I'm hoping to gain from this training is something to take with me going into the future.
All right. Pass it.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is John, and I actually just found out I know one DACA student. Yeah, Sebastian. I didn't know he was until he told me right now, so that's cool. Appreciate it. But overall, we're doing pretty good. We're doing our work, stay ahead of class. So, and for me, my support this week would be my son, my dad, my brothers, and my girlfriend. And I'm hoping to learn more about DACA and undocumented students. I mean, I don't know. I've never heard of it until now, until my teacher told me about it. So it's something new.
My name is Steven. Me personally, I do know an undocumented or DACA student. We're good. And I said that my dad and my friends have supported me, and I'm just hoping to get a better knowledge of you and your business.
My name is Angelo. I do know who has a DACA. It's my sister and brother. They both have a DACA card. I'm feeling good today. My whole family were supporting me in the good ways and the bad ways. I'm hoping to learn more is DACA. That's it.
Thank you.
Alan.
Alex?
Alan.
Alan?
Yeah.
Alan. Thank you, Alan. Thank you all for participating. And it was great that you kind of know some of individuals. Some of you, for the first time today, met somebody. So thank you all for bravery participating. I know that it's not easy when you're in class or your age. When I was your age, I would never be up here front presenting. There's no way. I would rather take a 0 and do it. But as you become a teacher, you have to be in your force, and that helped me. And now I feel comfortable, and I actually enjoy it. And hopefully you enjoyed this presentation as well. So just a little bit about Aliento. We believe we're a place where human potential is nurtured and not defined by immigration status. This is a picture from us in 2019. We were at the Capitol. We had 200 students, teachers, and supporters advocating for in-state tuition, what later became Prop 308. So we're going to show some pictures, some of that. Most of the students here are high school students. Some of them are college students, university students, some of them from community college, and some of them also from Prescott and also from Nogales, Arizona. We had a school from Nogales, Arizona, where half of the population lives in the U.S., the other half lives in Mexico. The parents are undocumented, and they were deported to Mexico, but the kid is a U.S. citizen, and they go to school every day in the morning. And they made the trip from Nogales, Arizona, to come to the U.S., to the Capitol to advocate. And it was something that is always very meaningful because you have to wake up at 3 a.m. and make sure to get here on time. So it's one of the things I know that be challenging, but if there's a will, there's a way. Again, we do 3 main programs at Aliento. One of them is Cultiva. We support the mental health and well-being of the immigrant community. We work with a lot of 5th and 6th graders. We bring our senior workshops to help them process what's going on in their lives. Also, we open it up to the public. So we have where they come with their parents, grandparents, as well as siblings. We also have open mics every first Friday in downtown Phoenix, where people can come and present, whether it be sometimes comedy, sometimes poetry, sometimes dance, sometimes song. And then we do nurture, leadership development, which is how do we support high school students, college students on their career or education. So some of the students that we work with want to go to college, some of the students want to go to actually to a technical school, so we support them navigating that process. And then transform, policy and advocacy. That's mostly what I lead. We focus on how do we raise awareness on certain policy that impacts students, specifically the immigrant community, and how do we then support those policies that make it more inclusive for the immigrant community, whether it be issues like Prop 308 or whether it be other issues. And we're going to talk a little bit about the other issues that that we are advocating for and the reason why. So this is a picture of some of the events that we do. Again, we have sometimes little kids will come with their parents. We do origami, clay, and this is the partnership with the elementary school in Mesa, and then the open mics here. It's something that is very important to us to make sure that people feel supported. Again, and then some of the advocacy that we have done, specifically here at the Capitol. And again, last year then we were all able to meet with Governor Hobbs as well to update her on our priorities and what do we think we want to be true. One of them is that we want to make sure that college education is tuition free for all students. That's something that we're advocating, that we feel that one of the biggest issues impacting students is specifically the cost of higher education and how many people that they know are impacted after they graduate. So for us, specifically when we go to the university level, at the community college, it's a little more affordable, but at the university level, we start to see where people becomes a big hurdle. So it's something that we want to make sure that we get young people to advocate for themselves and what are the issues that are important to them. Some of the issues that were really important to our community, to our students, was affordable housing. And then also one of them is driver's license for those who are currently undocumented, because in Arizona, we don't have the best public system, so transporting to and from can be a challenge. And then again, if for X reason you get pulled over, that could potentially be a really difficult situation. So this is some other students. Again, this is the 5 priorities. The first one is how do we include, which it's for everybody, but right now we're focusing there's a program called the Arizona Promise Program, but only open for university students, ASU, NAU, and U of A. We want to open it up for community college students. Basically, if your family is working class, middle class, or lower, you're able to get a tuition-free education at any of the universities. We want to make sure that opens up to the colleges as well. Driver's license for everybody. Again, they have to pass the test, make sure they also pass, they don't have a criminal record as well. Then occupational licenses and professional licenses, that's something that has been important to us as we have seen more people who are graduating, and more of our students who are in school right now are not eligible for the DACA program. The DACA program is a 2-year work permit. So every 2 years you have to renew, costs you about $500, $495, plus attorney fees. You're able to get a driver's license, work permit, and also a protection from deportation and social security number. So a lot of our students who don't have that, because the program is closed, it's been virtually closed since 2017, when they graduate with an engineering degree or a teaching degree or nursing, they won't be able to apply for that license and then to be able to work. The other one is repeal English only. We want to make sure to expand dual language programs for students, specifically in K-12. So many, right now in the state of Arizona, you're not eligible to receive public instruction in a language outside of English. We see that it impacts the majority of the English language learners. We see that English language learners tend to graduate at a 50% compared to their peers, and also tend to not go to college. I myself am an English language learner. I thankfully was able to coming to the U.S. when I was 6 years old, and I had that opportunity to be able to assimilate to the language. What we're seeing now is the majority of migrants who are coming and are becoming English language learners, or U.S. citizens who are born in the U.S., then move to Mexico or other country and then come back, are in the high school realm, and it's a little bit challenging for them to acquire the language. And then the last thing is to increase funding for mental health initiatives in schools. Yeah, so I used a lot of words and wanted to make sure to feel common language. I know that some of you may have not understood all of it. But first one is, sometimes have you heard the word term dreamer before? Oh. It refers to an individual qualifies for the DREAM Act. And the DREAM Act was a piece of legislation introduced in the year 2001. So, but most of you were probably not born then. And it basically said if you came into the country as a minor before you were 18 years old, had lived continuously for at least 5 years, can pass a criminal background check, and either are currently enrolled in school, have graduated from school, or plan to join the military, you'll be eligible to get on this pathway to adjust your status. And we adapted the word dreamer instead of using the word of other terms that were used, like illegal alien or illegal immigrant, as a way for us to define ourselves. But so when you heard dreamer, it typically refers to that type of individual. DACA and undocumented is a derivative from the word dreamer. DACA comes when the DACA program was created by then President Obama in 2012. That would allow individuals who qualify under the DREAM Act to be eligible for a 2-year work permit. However, it's been virtually closed since September 5th, 2017. And it briefly reopened for about 7 months in 2021, from January to July of 2021, and then it closed. So a lot of the individuals, if you encounter those who would typically be DACA recipients, your age would probably be undocumented because the program is closed. There's a few individuals who do have it because they were able to apply for it. Undocumented, we refer to as somebody who doesn't have lawful immigration status. And that's the majority of the population that we consider to be undocumented. So about 11 million people who are undocumented, give or take. About 600,000 are DACA recipients, and then the rest are fully undocumented. And then DACA eligible is those individuals who, as I mentioned, are eligible for the DACA program. However, they don't have status because the program is closed. Any questions on this terminology? And then we have another one to make it a little bit more interesting is those who are mixed status. Those mixed status is somebody who is a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, and then they have a family member, whether it be a parent, a sibling, who are undocumented. We call them mixed status. And that's the majority of the population. And we're about, in Arizona, is 1 in 9. So 11% of the students K to 12 are considered mixed status. Those who we have eligible non-citizens, again, those are U.S. nationals. Typically, think of American Somalia, U.S. Virgin Islands. So it becomes very complicated when we talk about immigrants. What are you specifically talking about? Fully undocumented, those who are legal permanent residents? Are you talking about TPS? So it becomes a very complicated. There's 83 visas in total. And immigration law is the second most complicated law behind tax law. So it becomes a challenge of how to use segmenting individuals. So we want to make sure to give a little bit of overview. But when we talk about the undocumented DACA population, this is in the state of Arizona. There's about 100,000 called undocumented youth, those who migrate to the U.S. before they were 18 years old. And then it gets smaller, and the reason it gets smaller is because every piece of legislation has specific guidelines that you must have either come into the country a certain year or education requirement. And a lot of the individuals, as I mentioned before, specifically those who might be older than me, is they had to support the family and they might have not completed their high school education. That's what you see the difference between 100,000 and 65,000. And then when you talk about DACA eligible, the DACA program specifically closes up that you must have entered the country before June 15, 2007. Again, and we know migration patterns, people keep migrating. Again, people are gonna seek their better life for themselves or for their family, and we start to see how the numbers specifically change. And then active DACA recipients, again, the program has been closed, basically 6 years, and that's why you have this difference in numbers. And one of the things is that it's about 120,000 people graduate from Arizona high schools. 2,000 of them are considered undocumented or DACA recipients, with 90% of them being fully undocumented because the DACA program's been closed. This past year, it's probably going to become smaller, where all of them are going to be undocumented as we move forward. One of the things that I wanted to kind of show to you a little bit was enrollment, right? This is before Prop 300, which is the law that I mentioned, where if you were undocumented, you're not eligible for in-state tuition or scholarships. We had about close to 4,000 students who were undocumented in the community colleges. After it was implemented, and we did have in-state tuition only for DACA recipients, the number was 2,000, and then it dropped down to 500. Right now, we don't know how many are currently. And the reason that we know this is because the Prop 300 mandated the community college universities to report the numbers to the state how many were enrolled. We're hoping that after Prop 308 is implemented and more awareness is raised, more students are going to come up and enroll. Again, if you're undocumented, you're basically pay in a community college 4 times as much as in-state tuition. So normally the in-state tuition went up here in the community colleges, so it's close to $3,000 per year, correct? For 15 credits in the back? Yes? Okay. For undocumented, it would be like 11,000, a little under 12,000. So it's a big difference. We know that now that the community colleges went down, more people are going to be able to enroll, even if it's 1 class at a time, 2 classes at a time. I know that's how my siblings were able to graduate, older 2 sisters, and then how I myself was able to get started when I was a recent high school grad. And then again, this is another information of some of the numbers. If you look at the data point, Dreamers or DACA recipients or undocumented students, 12% have a associate's degree or technical certificate compared to their counterparts, and in Arizona it's about 48%. So we see that it's significantly lower. We hope that that's going to increase. And then we talk about bachelor's degree is 13% for Latino, Latino, Latina, Latinx, whichever one you want to use, Hispanic. I know it's a lot of different derivatives of the word and what we typically mean. And we see that specifically if we start going, it goes down for those who are currently considered Dreamers and undocumented. That's part of the rationale to support a proposition like Prop 308 to make sure that everybody paid the same amount of tuition. Our hope is that we can increase the number of attainment, but also overall we need to increase attainment overall in Arizona, because the goal is 60% of all Arizonans having a associate's degree or a technical certificate. And as I mentioned, 90% of high school students, or right now community college students, are not eligible for the DACA program. So the program is antiquated specifically because it was now 16 years ago, sorry, not 15, 16 years ago that you needed to be present to the country, and the majority of the people who come into the country, the average age is 6 years old. So we know that this DACA program, DACA status, needs to be updated, or there needs to be a new program to make sure that it keeps updated. A little bit of policy. I might go a little bit fast, but 3 weeks ago, actually, 3 weeks ago today, the judge in Texas, Judge Heenan, ruled that the Biden DACA program, so initially what happened is Obama created this program, he couldn't get immigration reform passed to Congress. Again, Congress couldn't agree. He took executive action, he created it. Then the former president said, I don't like this program, I want to end it. And then Biden came in, and he's like, I'm gonna create this, strengthen this program through a rulemaking process. But both programs, both Obama and Biden's program, were ruled unconstitutional by a judge in Texas. So now, again, it's still the same. If you have DACA status like myself, you can renew. But if you were eligible but you never had it, you're not able to. And that's the majority of the population that we see specifically in high school or community college. And we expect a final decision by the Supreme Court of the United States either in the fall or summer of 2025, which that's like 2 years from now. And the reason it's going to take so long is because court ruling goes slowly, but also is you need, ask for permission to expedite the rules, the decision-making from the Supreme Court. And right now, a lot of folks are asking the Biden administration not to expedite because they want to make sure to keep the DACA program alive for people like myself longer because the potentially of ending. This, and I'll talk a little bit, but this used to be back before Prop 308 where the colleges and universities couldn't provide access to in-state tuition or access to scholarships to undocumented students. The federal government couldn't because of 1996 law. So we saw that every single part of government, local, state, and federal, there was this issue that existed. In Arizona, we were like, what can we control? We cannot, the federal government is too big, focus on local and state. So when you're having an issue that you want to help fix or you want to contribute, focus on your locus of control. It might be as simple as your friend group or your family or your community or your school district or your city. In this case, for us was the state. After Prop 308, now we only have these, we were able to eliminate the local and the state, and now we only have the federal. And again, now we're trying to do is, can we expand the Arizona Promise Program? So therefore, community college students will be eligible, but also universities, undocumented students as well, or dreamers. One of the things that we wanted to a little bit talk about before we finish this portion, it was around kind of the mental health. And this is something that we see a lot with our students, but also with their families, is the anxiety of an uncertain future. Like it's similar to, I think, what we all lived through around the COVID times, depending on your family. If you had somebody who was elderly, who was sick, or anxiety of, I don't want to be out, or if I touch something initially, is certain thing, if I do something, or somebody knows my status, they might figure out my parents' status, and that could potentially put them in danger. Or not being able to qualify for certain scholarships or financial programs because of it, and there's this anxiety that exists. There's also this initial shame. I don't know if you know, but for example, I had a little bit of shame. I was like just being undocumented because couldn't do anything about it, and it meant that I was not eligible for a lot of different things. When friends wanted to go to vacation to Puerto Peñasco or Rocky Point, I can't go there. Or wanted to travel to Tucson, I was a little bit worried because there's a checkpoint southern of Tucson. Or you want to travel to Yuma because you want to go to San Diego, there's a checkpoint in Yuma. So there's certain things that happen and things. And you feel a little bit depressed. Like there's this depression that exists. Again, some individuals go through substance abuse. I found a lot of support with my friends, specifically a lot of college friends who were very helpful and supportive and helping figure things out, and family. There's some individuals we see higher levels of suicidal rates as well. And then there's always this fear, right? One of the things that is here is driver's license that, for example, today was very handy, where even though it's gonna cost me some money, I felt really good to be able to just give this driver's license. And I knew I had a documentation that they were gonna take. And I knew in the back of my head I should not be doing that. And thankfully, this is just gonna be a part of me that I get the consequences, but I still stay in this country. Compared to many people that I know, because there was a time when many of my friends were pulled over, and then we didn't see them again. This is one of the students that we work with. Diana Morelos, she is a DACA recipient. Her parents are undocumented. And one of the things that she really emphasizes is that this generational trauma that exists, that the things that impacted your parents or your siblings, something that you carry, and how do we help heal that aspect of it? And that's the work that we do at Salento, multi-generational settings where we can bring not only children, but youth and also adults together to be able to have this common bond. And then this is Daniela. She was hoping to come with me, but she had a little bit of some conflict. But it's also how do you find hope in yourself and in groups that you can encounter with, and how do you take action? It's very important that you use your voice for whatever that you care about, even if it may not be popular, even if you may be afraid. Use your voice. Because if you didn't use it, somebody else is going to use theirs, and they might be in disagreement with you. And especially now, also get yourself informed, because sometimes we may get bad information, but it's also important that all of us are able to vocalize how we feel, so we don't keep ourselves in. And to what I was alluding in terms of, this is a report for Latina high school students. Again, this is across the board for all students who are considered minorities, racial minorities, or ethnic minorities. And we see higher levels of anxiety, PTSD, and depression. One of the biggest implements is just the feeling that you don't belong in this country, or you don't belong in the society that we see. And we see that increasing for specific students where the culture shifts in that school, or in that district, or in that classroom. Okay, so this is Prop 308. We're gonna go into it. Please have any questions. I have a whole bunch of examples, and this is a lot of the students that helped us out. This is one of my teacher friends who was every Saturday was canvassing because from Teacher America, because they had students who were undocumented. We had a whole bunch of students themselves, and then a lot of them who were impacted by it, but a lot of them had their friends or their siblings who were younger or older. Again, just a reminder, 2,000 people graduating from high school who are undocumented. That's why the importance of this specific policy. We'll skip that one. Okay. So the law became, Prop 308 passed in November of 2022, but it became law December 5th of 2022. But we have had a little bit of issues implementing, like any new policy. And we'll go into why some of these issues exist. Again, the big thing is you must have lived in the state of Arizona at least 2 years, graduated from Arizona high school or equivalent. So if you do a GD program for 2 years, live in the state, you're eligible for it. All right, and again, who has heard about financial aid or FAFSA? Can we get a volunteer from here? What is FAFSA?
Basically, like you sign up for it and you get basically free money from your college. Like any classes you take, like no matter whatever that class costs, you get that money instead of paying.
Yeah, the gist of it basically is the federal financial aid system that the U.S. created to support working class families, and typically is, if you're eligible for it, complete the process, which it can be extensive. You get a Pell Grant, which money that you don't, it's like a scholarship you don't have to pay back, or you can get student loans. That's why we see a lot of those folks from the government when they get their bachelor's or master's. Prop 308 doesn't make it eligible for those individuals to qualify for it. So that's one of the things that we're still advocating at the federal government, is how do we make sure that those who are undocumented are eligible. But that's a federal issue, not a state issue. All right. Who volunteers to read this question? Yes. So one of the things that we didn't talk about 60% of the current undocumented population in the U.S. came here with a visa, whether it be a student visa, visitor's visa, worker's visa, and then overstayed that visa and it lapsed and they became undocumented. Again, 60%, and this has been going on since 2014. So the majority of the people who are here considered undocumented came with a visa, meaning they had a legal entry. They applied and then they overstayed the visa for whatever reason. People like myself, back in the 90s, we came in and it was just basically is we're gonna come here for 2 years and then go back. And we just never went back. But we have, again, 83 types of different visas. And this is where it's the one that it gets a little bit challenging. Because there's certain visas that make you ineligible for Prop 308 because we want to make sure that if you're an international student, let's say from South Korea, you have a J1 visa, we want to make sure that you don't qualify for in-state tuition because then you lose your visa status and become undocumented. Because a lot of them, their plan is not to stay in the U.S. Their plan is to come here, work, get their education, and then move back to their home country. But other students who have a B1 or B2 visa, which is a visitor's visa traditionally, we see a lot is from northern Mexico, and they come to the U.S. because they're trying to just stabilize and then ultimately stay, they would not be eligible so long as the visa is valid. And we'll get to some of those examples right now. Basically, this is saying that the Arizona Promise Program, you're not eligible because this is based on financial aid. So once undocumented students are eligible for federal financial aid, they would be eligible for Arizona Promise Program. Those of you who are U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents are eligible for the Arizona Promise Program if you ever transfer to one of the 3 universities. I will look into it because if you qualify for it, you would get tuition for it. We have several students who currently are under this program, and it's been super helpful because it allows them not to have any college debt and to be able to pay for school. Because school can be very expensive. All right. Can I get a volunteer to read this? From this table, there's 2.
Maria migrated to the country when she was 6 years old, attended K-12 Arizona schools. She is DACA eligible, however, the program is closed. She is currently undocumented, no legal status. Maria has continuously attended Arizona schools.
Is Maria eligible for Prop 308? Why do you say yes?
Because she's still studying.
If she were to graduate high school, right, she would be eligible? So yes, so this is gonna be about 80% of the students. Those who came into the country very young and are gonna be here. Then we have other example. Can we get another volunteer from this table? Can you read?
Susie is undocumented and high school student with group to graduate from school at the top of her class. Susie's dream is to attend ASU. Susie eligible for the Obama Scholarship.
Who is familiar with the Obama Scholarship Program? Okay, so the Obama Scholarship Program is a scholarship created to support those who are low-income students, and in order to be, and it basically is, the limit is $40,000 per year. It would cover your tuition, room and board, meal plan, and fees. And you must be, all universities have a program like this, but this grades are part of it, but also your financial aid. So is Susie eligible for this? Under Prop 308. Okay, Gina, what do you think? So yes, that's one of the things that Prop 308 also implied, right? So we want to make sure if it's state-based, then it'll be eligible. And there is no cap for this type of scholarship. They have it at all the universities, so all you'll be eligible. However, the process has not been included because that's not been updated. But she is eligible, working with universities to make sure they create this program. So instead of applying for the FAFSA, because you got to show financial need, you're going to apply the CSS profile, which is for international students. All right, can we get another volunteer from the middle table? Has everybody heard about the ACE program before? You have it here. You have it at all the community colleges. Is basically where you take classes. It's a high school junior and senior, and at the community college, and you can get college credit. Would Marcos be eligible for Prop 308? Who said yes? Remember, the requirement is you must have lived in Arizona for at least 2 years and graduated from an Arizona high school equivalent. Has Marcos graduated? No. So Marcos is not eligible because has not graduated from Arizona High School. So right now, Prop 3 students are not eligible for dual enrollment. In-state tuition under dual enrollment programs like the ACE. So we see some of the limitations. If you think that that's unfair, I'm one of the persons responsible for writing it, you can blame me. I didn't foresee this when we were writing it, so my bad. It's a lesson that you learn going through it sometimes, and nobody else that we were working with saw this issue. So now we saw it afterwards. So for us, we took it as a lesson of growth, but it's also understanding that sometimes one of the things that policy is never perfect. Policy is only as good as you can negotiate and get it. For us, we consider a big win to win Prop 308. We wanted this to be part of it. Sadly, it's not. We're hoping to amend it to include it. Oh, supposed to be Alma. I forgot the word. Can I get a volunteer? It says Alma lives in California. From this table, can we get somebody? Yes, again. Is Alma eligible for in-state tuition under Prop 308? What do you say no? She has a GED program, remember? Or equivalent. She was out of state, but she was here and she went to 10th grade. No, it's only 2 years, remember? Sadly, no, because Ana was such an excellent student. She finished the GED program in less than 1 year. This is a special case. Ana, her real name is, well, in this example it's Ana, but she's actually a couple people that we encounter who moved to Arizona from other states, finished their education through a local nonprofit like College Depot or Friendly House or Chicos por la Causa. And however, they finished it really quickly. So she was not eligible because she doesn't meet the 2-year requirement. She can go back and get to another program and extend it, like, to make sure she's eligible. The reason that we had a 2-year requirement is because we could not get it to be 1-year requirement. 1-year requirement is, it's under federal statute 1996 law that, for example, if you're a citizen, you live in California, you move to Arizona after 1 year, you'll be eligible to apply for in-state tuition. We could not get it the same, to have the same requirement as that under federal law. But we're seeing how this is impacting real people that we're dealing with. So for us to make this change, we would have to go and make a change also to the federal government. Again, if you have questions or issues, I was one of the persons responsible for writing this law, so it's on me. But Ana can go back and then meet the 2-year requirement to be able to be eligible. Ooh. Can I get a volunteer for this one? This is an issue that we're encountering the most right now. Gina, can you volunteer?
Juan migrated to the U.S. as a teenager with a tourist visa, B1, B2, and an I-94 from Mexico in 2016. He has lived in Arizona and attended Arizona schools since his migration. He is now a senior at high school.
So he's about to graduate. Is Juan eligible for Prop 308? Who says yes? No. Okay. We're encountering, again, 60% of the undocumented population in the U.S. and in Arizona came like Juan with a visitor's visa or a student visa, worker's visa. So is Juan eligible? Why is not Juan eligible? Because a visitor's visa is considered an immigrant visa. Therefore, Juan would be ineligible because he is considered to have an immigrant visa. However, once the visa expires, it will make Juan eligible. We are encountering a lot of those cases. There's some confusion because while a student may have enter the country with the visa, but then the visa expire, they would be eligible. But again, if the visa is active, they would not be eligible. And it becomes more complicated with the V1 and V2 because technically speaking, with the V1 and V2, it's two components. The other component is the I-94. The I-94 specifically tells you you're eligible to be in the US for 3 months, 6 months, a year. If you stay longer, then you technically become undocumented even though your B1 and B2 visa is active, so technically you would be eligible. But not every single visa, because there's about 83 types of visas, has that requirement. So if you ever encounter individuals with a V1, V2 visa, aka a visitor's visa, please send them our way. We figure out if that individual is eligible, and we can have some documentation and process that we've been working with MCCD General Counsel Janice and Jason to be able to support the administration at each individual college to be eligible for in-state tuition. And that's the biggest issue. Because again, most people have you have busy lives, correct? Whether it be school, whether it be family, some of you have work, other responsibilities. Our goal is how can we as Aliento be a resource to you all? And again, this is what I mentioned about I-94. Typically, these types of visas, again, these are international students that wouldn't be eligible for Prop 308. The one that gets a little bit tricky is HB1 visa because these are students who migrated with their parents. Think of Intel, think of Boeing, where you have companies recruiting individuals to come in with their degrees to be able to work, and then those individuals bring in their family, and while their process is being adjudicated, they have a HB1 status, and they wouldn't be eligible for Prop 308. We're encountering some individuals, specifically as in Arizona, we grow in our semiconductor capabilities. This is the last individual case. Who can volunteer to read it? From any table. Yes, your name? What is your name?
Oh, Lacey.
Thank you, Lacey.
Miguel's dream is to study nursing at Louisville Community College. He migrated to Arizona when he was 5 years old and has lived in Phoenix ever since. Miguel has been enrolled in Arizona schools since he's arrived.
So is Miguel eligible for Prop 308? It's not a trick question. Yeah, that's right. So in the community colleges, there's also, with Prop 308 also talks about having access to scholarships. So is Miguel eligible for scholarships like in the community college? To be determined. So technically, yes. However, we have not had a formal adaptation of the district-wide policy. So something that we're working on to make sure that the district adopts it. We're taking it one step at a time. How can we make sure to get in-state tuition implemented well? And then how can we make sure to get the other portion will be scholarships. I have a lot of other slides, but I want to know if you have any comments or questions, because I know that we're coming up into time. But yes, Gina. Oh, sorry. So I wanted to go to the recap is, again, under Prop 308, undocumented students are eligible for in-state tuition and scholarships. They're not, Prop 308 students are not eligible for a Arizona Promise Program, and they're not eligible for Pell Grants that it impacts a lot of students. We see that the majority of students that we work with who are currently undocumented DACA recipients come from working class families, and we want to make sure that they would be eligible for FAFSA. That is a federal issue that would take a little bit longer. Oh, we do have a couple laptops for students, 5 left. If you all want to apply or you know somebody who is a student who would be able to, these laptops were donated to us by a former teacher and counselor to want to make sure to support students. You just go to bit.ly/Aliento/laptops, and you would apply and then go through a process and be eligible, but if you could spread it out with your friends or family. And you're also all invited to our gallery, which is going to be November 3rd. You saw some of the arts that we're making with students. There's going to be free food, entertainment. It's in basically central south at the I-17 at the Autobahn Center. It'll be November 3rd, 6 to 9 p.m. Yeah, and then this is my information. If you have any questions. And then Pedro Gonzalez, the other person email here, he's also a person supporting us. So if I don't reply, please CC Pedro. He will be able to reply. But that's it. I don't know if you have any questions.
You guys have questions?
Comments, concerns, reactions? Yes.
So for Prop 308, do you have to register somewhere to be able to do that, or is it just automatically based on your status?
You would go, when you're enrolled to a community college, there is online or in person, they would classify you, go through a process to be able to classify the same as a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. So you don't get the good thing about it is it's not separate in the number of programs. It's just a little bit of a box. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, if you have any personal questions for Jose, please feel free to stick around. Otherwise, we want to thank him for his conversation on Prop 308 and the ability to access tuition equity, because that's a goal, right? So, any questions? Last minute questions? Thank you all for coming.